Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Study with Medico. Here we are going to start a new sessions for NEET 2024. As you know that ncert biology is very important for competitive exams like NEET, EAMS. So here we are starting here the first chapter of ncert, that is the living world, and we are going to discuss the key points of the ncert. As you know that every single line is very important for NEET, so we have to discuss all these things and remind. If we go back to 30 years MTG book, so we can see that this is direct question from ncert. There is nothing much more important in the first page, and we have to note that the systematics and monumental descriptions of life. How we examined our life through systematics. For the systematic examined, we have to first identify the things, then classify as per the basis, and then give name to the things. So for systematic, three important things are there, that is identification, nomenclature, and classifications. Here we are going to the second page of this topic, and nothing is important in this topic because we have to remind that Ernest Mayr is the Darwin of the 20th century. One more thing is remained on this page, and that is Ernest Mayer's work. He pioneered the currently accepted definitions of the biological species, and you have to remind this, you have to remember this data. So that literally we have to start the first page of this topic, that is what is living. There's questions will come in your mind, that what is living and what is the features of the living being. There are some features by which we can identify living and non-living things. The features are growth, reproductions, ability to sense environment, self-replicate, self-organize. These are the most important features of a living being. There are some characteristics like reproductions, growth, metabolism, consciousness. Now we are discussing about growth. As we know that increase in mass and increase in numbers are the characteristic of growth. In multicellular organism, growth is also occurs. In plants, the growth occurs continuously, while cell divisions, and in animals, the growth is for some period of times, then it stops. And as we know that growth and reproductions are mutually exclusive events, and also we can see growth in non-living organisms like mountains. Like in mountains and hills, the sands and other things are deposited on the surface of this in mountains, and we can see growth in both living and non-living objects. So we can't defining living and non-living by the basis of growth. So here we can find that we can't take growth as a defining properties of living organisms, and a dead organism does. After growth, reproduction is a characteristic of living organisms. Multicellular organisms, there are two methods of reproduction, that is sexual and asexual method, and there is many types of method, that is budding and fragmentation. If we talk about bacteria or unicellular organism like amoeba, this is growth means increase in cell numbers. So growth and reproduction are synonymous for them. Here we talk about metabolism, the sum total of all the chemical reactions occurring in our body, and no non-living things can exhibit metabolisms. And here is the defining properties of all the living organisms. And metabolic reactions in vitro are not the living things but purely living reactions. And here you go further for cellular organizations. Purely cellular organization of the body is the defining features of the life forms. Here it is the most obvious and complicated features of all living organisms, that is consciousness. All organisms like prokaryotes and eukaryotes are conscious about their environment. They can sense their environment, but the human being is the only one who can respond and aware of himself, that is called self-consciousness. Lastly, we concluded that consciousness is the most defining properties of all the living organisms. We can see diversity in the living world and organisms. And what is biodiversity? That is the number and types of organisms present on Earth, and we have to remind that 1.7 to 1.8 billion species are found. Now we see diversity in living organism. We found 1.7 to 1.8 million species of organization. Now we have to standardize them. First we have to describe them correctly and give a particular name by which they can recognize all over the world by this name. Here is the organization which is working for the plants, that is ICVNs, and another one is ICJN, which is working for the animals. This question is frequently asked, the full form of ICVN and ICJN. Here the scientific names ensure that each organism has only one name, and in name there is two components, that is generic name and specific epithet. This two component systems is called binomial nomenclatures, and the system is given by Carolus Linnaeus. There are some rules we have to follow. This rule, the biological names are written in italics are Latin. The first word represents genus and the second word represents specific epithet. The first word starts with a capital letter and the second word it starts with a small letter. If we writing in hand, so we can underline this two words. Here we go forward for taxonomy. Based on the characteristic of all living organisms can be classified in different taxes, and the modern taxonomy is also defined by some features, that is external internal structure along with structure of cell, development process and the ecological informations of all living organisms. Then you go further for systematics. By systematics we can know about different kinds of organisms and the diversities and the relationship among them, and this is systematics is derived from the Latin word systema, which means the different arrangements of the organisms, and Linnaeus used systema natural name as his title, as a title of his publications, and it included identification, nomenclature and classification. Going to start taxonomical categories. In this we include classifications. Classification is not a single step, but we include many steps in this, and which represents ranks or category. In taxonomical category which arranges the category, and which wholly called this category wholly called taxonomical hierarchy. In each category there is a rank which is commonly called taxon, which we called as unit of classification. Here we discuss that rank or taxon is the unit of classifications, and there is some common categories like kingdom, phylum or divisions, order, family, genus and species. This is the common categories, and we use phylum for animals and division for plants. We know that species is the lowest category of all this. Here we are going to discuss about species. A group of individuals which have fundamental similarities is called species, and here we get some examples like Magnifera indica, Solanum, tuberosum and Panthera. Here the three names indica, tuberosum and leo represent specific epithet, and Panthera, Solanum that represents genera. Each genus have more than one species like Solanum has two species like Nigrum and Melangona. So like that Panthera have also two species like Leo and Tigris. Here we go for genus. Genus which is called as the group of related species which have more common characters than species. For examples we get potato and brinjals, and they have different species but have common genus like Solanum, and like another example like lion, leopard and tiger, they have common genus like Panthera, but they have different species like Leo, Tigris and Paradise. One genera can be differed from another genera like Panthera and Felis. Felis genus includes cats, but Panthera genus includes tigers. Here we go for the next category, that is family. What is family? Family is a group of related genera that have less similarity in comparison to genus and species. For examples, in plants family, that is Solanaceae, we include three different type of genera, that is Solanum, Petunia and Datura. And among animal family we include cat and dog in a common family, that is Felidae. And we can also observe that some similarities and dissimilarities between cat and dog. They have also different family like Felidae and Canidae. Then we move for the next category, which is order. We know that one or more families are included in this order. For examples, in order Polymelinaceae we include Convolutions and Solanaceae, and also in Carnivora we include Felidae and Canidae. Then move to the next category, which is class. In class we include related orders. For examples, in order primata we include monkey, gorilla and gibbon, and in mammals we include carnivora, that includes tiger, cat and dog. Then you go further for phylum. In phylum we include one or more classes. For examples, in phylum Chordata we include animals like fishes, amphibians, reptiles and mammals, which have common features like notochord, presence of notochord, dorsal hollow neural system. We move further for kingdom. This is the highest category and species is the lowest category. All animals include belongs to different types of phylum included in kingdom Animalia, and you have to remember that from species to kingdom, this is the ascending order. And if you move further from species to kingdom, the common characters are goes and decreasing. This is the important table. You have to remember all this data from this table. The direct questions will come from this. Okay. Then you go further for taxonomical aids. It's used for classifications of organisms. These techniques are used to store and preserve the informations as well as the specimens. Okay. Then you go further for herbarium, which called as the storehouse of all the collected specimens. It can dry, press and preserve on the seeds. The herbarium seeds will provide information about the date and place of collections and also the collector's name, written in English, local names and botanical names. Orally, we can say that it is a quick referral systems in all taxonomical studies. Then you move further for botanical garden. We can see that collections of living plants, and the famous botanical gardens are situated in Kew at England, and Indian Botanical Garden at Howrah, and the National Botanical Research Institute in Lucknow. Then you go for museums. We can see the collections of preserved plants and animals. They are used for study and reference, and the specimens are preserved in container or jars in the preservative solutions. And then now we go further for zoological park. It is included in ex situ conservations, in which the wild animals are kept and protected under human care. Then we move further for key. This is a taxonomical aid which used for identification of plants and animals depend upon their similarities and dissimilarities. The contrasting characters are generally paired, that is called coupled. The statements in the key is called lead. We talk about flora, manuals, monograph, they are helping in correctly identify. And if we talk about flora, this will give information about a given area, particular area. If we talk about manuals, they will provide informations about species that found in an area. And if we talk about monograph, that will give information about only one tax. This is the full explanations of the chapter, the living world.